Okay, so
Okay.
this is going to be a conversation all about how to become more resilient by overcoming our pride, because you can't hurt your pride when there's no pride to hurt, right? So it's to learn not to take ourselves and our performance in life too seriously, and not take things personally. That's a big one. This is all about not taking things personally and prevent the ego from growing too much. So first of all, what is pride? Do you have any thoughts on what is pride? It's a tough question to answer. Everyone gets stumped in this.
Yeah, it's is it when like I feel like you attach yourself to something, like you take ownership over?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. It's like taking deep pleasure and satisfaction in our accomplishments and excessive belief in our abilities. Okay? Both of which can diminish gratitude. All right, that's the key thing with it, is that it can work in opposition to gratitude. It's considered the mother of all vices. This is a big deal. So greed can come from pride. Anger can come from pride. Envy can come from pride, right? So, and it's also considered, with the model of the 7 deadly sins, pride is considered one of the 7 deadly sins. And it's basically, they say that the first ever sin committed was an act of pride when the devil refused to recognize God and forgot that all his power came from God and rebelled against God, So it's kind of falsely imagining our own greatness, and that's what led to the devil becoming a tortured soul, as you might say. So it's considered something we've been historically warned against pride. There's the old saying, pride comes before the fall. And this isn't really going to be a religious conversation at all. This is going to be more a practical, everyday, real life conversation on how we can be more resilient and create greater inner peace and joy for ourselves. So let's go into what are some real life, everyday examples of pride. Why don't we do like, I go, you go, okay? All right. Thinking we're better than others.
Solid. I would say even like trying to like outperform others.
Yeah, and comparing. Okay.
Yeah.
Thinking we shouldn't be in the situation we're in. Like, oh, my life shouldn't be like this right now. It should be better than this. It should be, like that can come from pride, actually.
Thinking like you're entitled, like that's similar. Like, I guess that's kind of what you're saying.
Yes.
Like entitled to salary increase or entitled to something.
Yep. Deciding to do things our way, even though it's not the best way, but it's our way, usually is a matter of pride.
These are hard examples.
I know. All right. So I'll another one might be, deciding that nobody's going to tell us what to do out of an immature sense of self-determinism or determination, right? Saying I did that, even though our contribution was a small percentage, like being on a team and being like, I did that, even though it's like, wait a minute, you got all these other people that contributed to your success, right? Denying our problems and issues and trying to hide them to look good is a very common one. To try to save face, we'll cover things up, and not apologizing out of pride is a big thing. Not facing our mistakes is a matter of pride. Well, I want to look good, so I don't want to face my mistakes.
I guess like blaming others in that sense too, right? Like if you're not trying to face your mistakes, you're trying to like kind of pawn it on someone else so that you look better.
Yeah. Destroying somebody else to make yourself look good. That's a pride thing. Pride is really, it's really like the villain quality. It's what makes, if you take a look at any villain in any story, their defining quality is usually pride. Right? I'm just going to destroy everybody because I deserve more than anyone else and I'm better and blah, blah, blah. It's that whole attitude. So let's think of, we're going to go through a couple really key life-changing tools in this conversation. All right. And it's going to be stuff that can really change the way you look at life in the most liberating, freeing way. And to start off, we're going to come up with like an example of when somebody might have an achievement or accomplishment they did on their own that they're proud of. What do you think might be an example of an achievement or accomplishment where it's like, I did that on my own, I'm proud of it?
Getting a promotion in a job.
Perfect. Yeah, getting a promotion in a job. So we'll talk about that one. There's other examples we could have said. We could have said getting really strong in the gym. I did that. You know, creating my own business, my high education level I achieved, you know, winning an award for being a top performer, you know, being proud of how far I've come in life, you know, being proud of a super amazing boyfriend or girlfriend, or a beautiful piece of art you created, or a beautiful song you wrote that you're proud of, you know. So there's lots of different examples we can use. Now let's say that imagine we get a promotion at work. You might naturally think, I'm proud of what I've done, right? Seems like a pretty innocent thought. But
Yep.
why is it a bad idea to think that way? Why is that a trap to tell ourselves I'm proud of what I've done?
Because I feel like it almost like narrows your lens to think that, to like not look at the other people who potentially have gotten you there or helped you like progress as a person, even if they're unrelated to your job, right? Like nothing is solely one thing, one person.
Yes. Yeah, you nailed it. So it leads to ingratitude to the efforts and contributions of others. And that sense of ingratitude works against the sense of team unity, right? Like when you have a team and somebody's taking all the credit and bragging and boasting that they did it, like what does it do to the team dynamic? You know, thinking I did this, I got the promotion. What does it do to the rest of your coworkers who were a part of your success and helped you and supported you along the way? Does it create a little bit more of a divide, right? Like, you know, it also gets us thinking too much of ourselves. It can make us excessively self-focused to think I did this. And then because we're so focused on ourselves, we become obsessed with managing how we look to other people.
Right.
And then we're always comparing ourselves to others, which can be a form of self-torture. And then we're always trying to hide our faults to look better, you know, and blaming people, right? And then what might happen is once we start to tell ourselves, I did this, I did that, it can build a superiority complex so that we think we're better than we are, and we raise our expectations beyond what's reasonable. And then because we build a superiority complex and we think, I should have this, I should have that, and everything else, and then reality doesn't match up, things don't go our way, right? Then we get an inferiority complex because we get down on ourselves like, oh my gosh, you know, my life should be different right now. I should be at this level and that level. So we kind of go between a superiority complex and setting really high ambitions for ourselves and then not hitting them because they were too unrealistic for us. And then we go into inferiority and beating ourselves up. So it kind of goes like this. And the whole ride is a torturous ride, you know, doing that figure eight between the two. And it starts with saying, I did this. Right. And then it looks bad to other people. Like it can look conceited, right? Like, you know, how attractive of a quality is it when somebody's really conceited? You know, do you ever hear someone say, that's a very beautiful, conceited person right there? They're just so conceited on the inside and out. Lovely. You know, like Yogananda once said, the more great we want people to think we are, the less great we will be. You know, like, so, and it can get corrosive over time. This can get worse and worse. And it goes against the wisdom of all the ancient masters, the spiritual masters and wisest thinkers, all kind of encouraged humility. Einstein, Jesus, like all of them were encouraging humility as a good idea, not pride. You know, so who are we to think pride is a good idea in the face of others who probably knew more than us, right? And what's the cost to benefit ratio of being proud? Okay. Does it really make us any better?
No, not really.
No, but it can make us worse, right? Like in human history, how many times did pride lead to somebody's downfall? Like, is there lots of stories out there? athletes and actors, and they say and do things because they're so proud, and it's the wrong thing and it ruins their reputation. Or they think they can get away with things because they are them and they're superior to others and they can break the rules when others can't, right? So it's like, now here's the thing. This is a good question. A lot of people are going to be challenged with this question. Is a little bit of pride a good thing? Something to think about.
I feel, yeah, in some ways, I mean, maybe I'm not defining it properly, but I feel like it is, because then you acknowledge maybe where you've gotten to, but not to a degree where you discount the fact that everyone else along the way, you know what I mean? Like there's a dose of it that could be beneficial.
Yeah. Some people think a little bit of it can be helpful as motivation or to be confident.
But temporarily, I guess.
But I would submit that it's a mistaken direction to achieve that. That there's a better direction.
Got it.
So is a little bit of evil a good thing? Yes or no? What do you think?
Not necessarily.
No, right? So it's like, and evil is a mistaken direction that just creates more problems. So this is how I would encourage people to look at pride. It's going to come knocking at your door, but you don't have to let it in, because if you let it in, if you open the door just a little bit, that's like letting in a really unwanted house guest who's going to make a mess of things. Is that a good idea?
Right.
So we might justify, oh, it's good to be a little bit proud, but that little bit can create great misery. It can create great momentum in our lives that can lead to misery. It can be very costly. There is a better approach, and there's an opportunity cost when we indulge in pride. And the opportunity cost is that we're not using that opportunity to be grateful instead.
I see.
And that's why I don't think a little bit of pride is a good thing. I think it would be better to have a little bit of gratitude. And you can always choose gratitude instead of pride.
So they're kind of contrasting sense of gratitude and pride. They don't coexist together, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they kind of work in opposition. So, and here's the thing. If you follow it along logically, pride leads to like ego, right? And ego leads to unhappiness, right? Like we become so tortured. It's like an itch you can't scratch. It's never good enough. It's never enough. There's always more you can do. Anytime you satisfy the ego, it becomes hungry again for more, right? It gets easily offended and defensive and standoffish, But gratitude leads to joy. Gratitude is one of the best ways to achieve happiness, right? So it's like, what's a better choice? This is why I think a little bit of pride is not a good thing, because I think it's better just to use gratitude, because what it ultimately leads to. The best idea is to just turn pride into gratitude always. So instead of, being like, I'm proud that I was able to like travel. I was able to make a lot of money and travel. I'm really proud of that. You can be like, I'm grateful to be in this situation with these opportunities to travel, and I'm going to make the best of it.
Right.
Two different attitudes towards the same thing.
Very different.
So let's see how this kind of plays out. Okay. Let's say I'm so proud of how strong I've gotten in the gym, working out, hitting the weights. Can you see how that might lead to other thoughts that create an ego or superiority complex? Yeah, we take enjoyment in it. We get really self-focused. We start thinking less of other people. We start feeling a little bit more entitled. We start to become a little bit more obsessed with our image, and we can become moody even. But instead, we could say this. We could say, I'm grateful to have the experience of getting this strong, right? I'm grateful to have this. And then we can keep our inner peace and we can be happier. We can still enjoy the experience, but just be on team gratitude instead of team pride, right?
Okay.
Now, here's a big example that's really important. It's very common for people to take pride in others and say, I am so proud of you. Okay. Why is that a bad idea?
Because that's feeding like the ego, like in pride, like their pride.
Yeah, we're planting the seeds of pride, right? We're affirming them, and typically we're affirming we're affirming the outcome, right? Which can grow their sense of we're affirming the individual in a way that can grow entitlement and superiority. It would be better to affirm efforts to get them more focused on efforts.
So what would that?
Carol Dweck wrote the book Mindset about this. So instead of saying, you're so amazing, I'm proud of you, you can say, I really appreciate the level of effort you put into this. I really enjoy watching you do your best at this. Right? Just keep praising the efforts, not the person, because if you keep praising the person, they might think like, I'm so amazing, so everyone should listen to what I say. I'm so amazing, so I should get what I want when I want it. I've been told my whole life since I was a kid, I'm so amazing, right? So it starts to build a superiority complex. It seems innocent enough, and it's very much well-intentioned, right? But as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
So we just
You
need
really,
to practice discernment. Yep, go ahead.
I feel like I've kind of always viewed it on like a personal level, like, you know, you have a high ego or I have a high ego, but I've never really paid attention to how I approached a certain like approached someone in their achievement. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So let's go into an example of the pride purification process. So this is going to be a very powerful tool. You can use it for life, and the results speak for themselves. I would just encourage anyone to just do this and see how much better it feels and how much better you function, because it's very convincing once you go through this process. So here's what we do. You do this whenever you're tempted to be proud of something, an accomplishment. We want to see the unseen links and acknowledge who had to do a good job so we could do a good job. So we're going to take the example you mentioned. I'm really proud I got this job promotion. I got this promotion at work. I'm really proud of this. Here's what we're going to do. Step one, on a surface level, who created this opportunity? Who created this opportunity on a surface level, right? Someone created this business, right?
Right.
Other people are managing this business. You know, people are taking care of the facility. You know, you've even got the janitor, who's cleaning and taking care of the facility. You know, you've got the other people that have taken employment in this building. If they didn't take employment there, this business would have gone under if nobody decided to work for this business, right? What other examples can you think of?
I'd say like investors, like other individuals who maybe like drop the position or like work for the corporation.
Yeah, or even, customers who created a demand that led to the business growth in which it was necessary
Right.
for someone to be promoted into the job you're in. Right? And who else facilitated the opportunity? So someone decided this promotion was necessary. Someone had to evaluate the candidates, and someone had to believe in you. Right? So there were other candidates available as well. They played a part in this. There were people who created technologies that enabled you to participate in this. Maybe this was a posting, right, on a website, on the company website, and there's web designers behind that, and maybe part of this job promotion required you to use technology that somebody else created. You used a computer that somebody else made, to write up your resume and stuff. And you used resume building guidelines and wisdom of resume building and editing software and everything else. Like there was other technologies that enabled your participation in this opportunity, right?
Right.
And then we might say, who supported your success in this example? Like, other people appreciated you. Other people admired your efforts. Other people chose gratitude in their attitude towards you. That was a choice. People, if they wanted to, they could take the most negative view of you and you would never have this job opportunity. You could be the best performer and they could just make up rumors about you and, decide that they don't like you for some reason. They did not make that choice. Right? So other people might have set an inspiring example for your thoughts and actions. You might be like, well, I kind of succeeded at work because I role model these people and I try to be like them. So they kind of created that mold for you to apply. Depending on the individual, you might say that your haters, your doubters, and critics were a part of your success because they motivated you to be better, to prove them wrong.
Right.
Think of all the people that told you can't in life. Those are the people that make you want to just show you can, just to prove them wrong. And, sometimes even your enemies point out your shortcomings so you can improve them. And in that way, they're contributing to your success. Right? And you might think, well, who shaped you into being? Who invested in you with their time, money, and energy? Parents, teachers, mentors, significant other, right? Any other thoughts on who else supported success?
Well, I would say even like educators in your like journey, other employers, but even something as simple as even like a friend, supporting you along your like career process, and family planting a seed like, oh, why don't you consider this company, even though it's not like a direct role. It's acting, right? Yeah.
So if we started off at 100%, I am the doer, I got this job promotion 100%. Where are we at now? Like maybe 50%, right? Like it's kind of like it's really going down, isn't it? And let's keep bringing it down. We want to bring it down to less than 1%, right?
Right.
So now we're going to go a level deeper. We're going to say, who has made this life possible, living or dead? Right? Who has made this life possible? Think of your ancestors.
Right.
What did they put up with? Drought, famine, plague, war, and every other type of brutal living condition, so I could have this life with this opportunity to have this promotion here today. Right? They got a big assist in that. Everyone who helped your parents meet, if they didn't do that, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
Everyone who helped your grandparents meet too, because they had to be there for your parents to meet. Everyone who helped your great grandparents meet. Everyone who helped your great great grandparents meet and supported their lives. Right? If one of those meetups didn't happen, you wouldn't be here and get this job promotion.
This is true.
Right? Who knows, way back in time, if one of these things didn't happen, somebody's generosity or somebody's, positive actions didn't happen way back in human history somewhere, the whole thing falls apart like a house of cards, right? Also, let's think about this. Did someone have to civilize us to fit into society? What would we be like if we were left alone from birth? Probably shivering in the cold, eating bugs, fighting to stay alive. You take a look at any human being, if left alone from birth, they wouldn't be so great as they might tell everyone they are. Take a look at the most proud, egotistical people. It's like, yeah, if you were left alone from birth, you wouldn't have got this far. Right? Yeah. Like, you should be grateful, not proud, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone invented the language we use to communicate it in, and other people taught it to us. We couldn't be here without that.
Very true.
If you were just like grunting and making like animal sounds, there's no way they're going to give you the promotion at work. You have to speak English or whatever, right?
That's a very good example.
So I think at this point, we want to think about how our inner and outer life depended on the work and contributions of others, right? So I have an Einstein quote here, Albert Einstein. People might think Einstein is one of the smartest people to ever live, one of the smartest scientists, certainly. Here's what Einstein said. 100 times a day, I remind myself that my inner and outer life depended on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received.
Oh, wow.
Einstein was hyper aware of this stuff. He inspired my thought process on this stuff. In a way, he's a co-creator in our conversation here today, right? I read a book about him to try to pull whatever wisdom I could, because I realized he was much smarter than I am. So hopefully he could help me in my development, right? But that was Einstein's thoughts, right?
Wow.
That gratitude, choosing gratitude, motivated him to give back more. Whereas pride often motivates us to just take more, entitlement, you know?
Yeah.
So let's think about the modern day conveniences that supported us. If we get a job promotion, couldn't have happened if other people didn't provide electricity to the buildings we live in and we operate in. Probably not, right? Because we can't do this all by candlelight all the time. That'd be a distraction, you know, and especially if we didn't have water, running water. You know, we had to go outside and use an outhouse or something. If we didn't have plumbing or gas for heating and internet and phone services that made all of this possible. Depending on the job, you probably needed internet and phone to even do your job, right? What about heating and air conditioning, right? Like all of these utilities, was it any skill of our own that set up all these utilities we benefited from, right? Like, I'm like, I didn't do any of this. I'm just grateful other people have made this possible and available to us. And then you think of like, what tools and technologies did we use here? Like, you know, did you invent and build your own phone? Did you invent and build your own computer you used when you were doing your job? Did you even invent and build your own refrigerator so that you didn't have to spend all your time getting fresh produce, right? Like, somebody set up our school system, our educational system for us. There's food and other life necessities made accessible to us. We didn't have to harvest all our own food. You know, somebody else grew it and somebody else sold it to us. If I had to grow my own food, I'd probably just grow watermelon and that's it. I'd be like, it's a lot of food. I like watermelon. I can't be troubled to like grow too much more. What do you think? What would you do if you had to grow your own food all the time, right?
Has to be one food, one food item.
Or whatever it is, you know, like I think, what am I gonna do? I might have a couple, you know, watermelon, maybe some lettuce. Like, what am I gonna do? I can't figure this out. I got no time to put in my hours for a job promotion. I'm too busy trying to figure out how to grow my own food, right? Or you know, created the medicine we may have needed in our life. Right? Imagine you had to make all your own medicine. Like, I'd be like, I don't know, I'm probably gonna poison myself, right?
Yeah.
There's also community amenities, parks, health clubs, community centers, anything else that might have benefited us to have the life we have. Clothing manufacturers. Imagine you had to make your own clothes like some people do. Oh my gosh. I would literally be like, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to take like a potato burlap sack, punch a few holes in it. We're done. Like,
The best costume ever.
I'm too busy growing watermelon. I don't have time for anything else, right? Like, I'm just going to wear my burlap sack and grow watermelon. That's how successful I'd be without other people, you know, assuming I could even do that successfully. Or assuming I could even survive that far, right? So we've also got, as part of your job promotion, construction workers are to credit. We didn't have to build our own homes and stuff like that, and the other amenities in society. City workers are to credit, maintaining the roads, taking care of the garbage. Civil servants are to credit for keeping society organized and functional. Police prevent anarchy, you know, like firefighters preventing mass destruction. If it wasn't for firefighters, this job may not exist. This building may have burned down a long time ago, along with other buildings in the community, right? So it's like, who knows to what degree these other contributions have really helped us out. What about transportation? Boats, airplanes, cars, trains, other public transit. Like, did we invent the automobile? Probably not, right? Like, did we need a car to get to work every day? You know, or the GO train or whatever it happens to be. Like, we had to rely on the contribution of other people, right? So now when we go back to like, what percent are we of this success? Where do you think we're at now? Like maybe 10%?
If I was thinking 5.
Okay, let's say 5. Yeah, we're at 5% right now. I did this job promotion. It's like, what? This job promotion is literally hinged to everyone in existence. Like, it's a part of this on some level, right? Like, instead of like, now we might say here's the biggest dimension of them all is what invisible forces supported you. So think about the forces within the human body that helped it form, help your body function, help your body heal. The force that governs your immune system to prevent deadly sickness, like, is that due to any skill of your own, really, or is that being done for you? Right? The force that, yeah. What about the force that regenerates your body? Was that due to any skill of your own, or is that just kind of happening inside you? Right?
Very true.
What about the intelligent force that does your digestion? We put food in our mouths, and then it's a mystery what happens next, how the nutrients get distributed to the body parts that need it. Is that due to any skill of our own? Or did that just happen inside us like a mystery due to some benevolent force that's looking out for us? Right? It's the same force, you might say, that keeps us breathing at night and keeps our heart beating. It's the same force that put the love and inspiration inside of other beings so that they would support us. It's the same force that, is it possible that this force dropped sudden insights and made good ideas pop into your head to create the inspiration to do some of the things you did? Is it possible you're not even the original source of your own good ideas? Something to think about, And the force behind Mother Nature for the agreeable weather. We didn't create or maintain the sun, but the sun had to do a good job of shining, or we wouldn't be able to get this job promotion, right? Like, true or false, if the sun burned out, you wouldn't have got the promotion.
Yeah, true.
All right. So it's like, in summary, was there some other force that created you, sustained you, this earth, and everything else around, right?
Very humbling.
This is what pride makes us forget. Pride makes us forget grace. And that's why pride is what made the devil the devil. It turns us against grace. It treats grace like a throwaway commodity that we can ignore, right? So at this point, and once we consider the invisible forces, what percentage of our success is our own isolated greatness, our own doing? What do you think it is? Is it less than 1% now?
Yes.
Absolutely. But that's a good thing. Now, sometimes people might get some resistance to this and to think, oh, this is overthinking it, or this is just exaggerating a lot to bring it to this level. Just recognize that that's actually pride resisting you doing this right now. That the same intent, the force that's inspiring you to resist doing gratitude is the opposing team. That's team pride right there, right? Do you want to cooperate with that energy? Just be careful, because we know where it goes, right?
Right.
So why is it a good idea to have the outlook that we are not the doer? What do you think?
Well, like you said, it enhances our gratitude. And I think it keeps us like humble. Like we aren't our only experience. There's a lot of contributing factors every day to every situation, right?
Yeah. And it also offsets fear and anxiety. So the more we practice this gratitude, the less fear and anxiety we have. This is huge, because when you do this, it reinforces that we are loved, protected, and supported in many, many ways that are beyond our everyday awareness.
It's true.
Pride makes us forget that. So pride plunges us into fear and anxiety, because we lose sight of how we are loved and protected, especially by the rest of society. I am so grateful to give back to society when I can, because I think about these things all the time, and it just creates so much love for the rest of society. It's like, how could you not want to give back when you think of this stuff, right? But also, when you're grateful, doesn't it make you a more enjoyable person to be around?
For sure.
Rather than being somebody who's like an elitist, like I'm better than everybody, which helps relationships, which makes life more enjoyable. It honors and appreciates others, which makes them feel good. Gratitude leads to more joy. We become happier. It takes some pressure off. How can there be an inferiority complex or a superiority complex when we are not the doer? So it can take us out of that vicious cycle, that figure eight of inferiority and superiority, And the more you remove this sense of ego and get rid of this pride stuff, the more room there is to bring in grace itself and bring in this benevolent force of creation that and be one with it, rather than creating this separate, isolated vessel through our own perceptions, right? So we don't want to imagine that these other powers are our own powers and take pride in it, because that's what made the devil, thinking, I did this. These are my powers. I am so great, so it can be really easy to fall into that when we want to realize that, there's not really any isolated greatness. John Muir was an environmentalist, and he once said that when we try to pick out anything by itself, we find that it's hitched to everything in the universe.
Which is essentially what you just did.
Yeah, we just tried to hitch it to everything in the universe. John Muir was a great soul. He's why we have like conservation areas in nature and stuff. He was a big part of that. And obviously we can see this in nature. Like if you get rid of the wolves, all of a sudden the erosion's greater. It affects the trees because the deer are overgrazing and everything else. Like you can't remove a predator from an ecosystem and expect it to be a good thing, right? So we can't look in these isolated ways. So this is one thing. One aspect is there's three components really to today's talk. One is realizing that pride is not a good idea. It comes before the fall. A lot of times people think pride is a virtue, but it's a vice. And we need to not get confused on that. Number two is to turn pride into gratitude. And number three is, to deflect praise always. And praise and flattery are the things that can fuel pride. People's appreciation can really fuel our pride if we're not careful. So why is it a good idea to deflect praise always? What do you think?
Well, like you said, it kind of contributes to pride, and then it grows and kind of turns into like a downward spiral, I guess you could say, or a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it can go to our heads, right? Like it can reinforce this concept of isolated greatness, like which leads to superiority complex. It also, if we don't need the praise and we can pass it on, it actually raises our social value, because we can use it as an opportunity to shine light on unsung heroes, right? Rather than let them take the credit. We don't need it. Praise doesn't make us any better. If you pass it on, it creates more of the environment you want with the people around you, an environment of really appreciating others, right? Now, don't reject praise or you insult the judgment of the one who praised you or appreciated you. But the idea here is that we want to play a game of praise hot potato. Okay. You ever played that game hot potato?
Yes.
Okay. So how does it work again?
You grab, like you catch the potato and you toss it to someone else.
Perfect. So this is what to do with praise. You want to receive it and hold it for a brief moment in order to honor them and acknowledge their sentiments. Right? But you don't want to hang on to it because it's hot. It's going to burn you if you really absorb the thing and hang on to it. So, we want to receive it and hold it first for a brief moment. So we might want to say something like, I'm overjoyed you feel that way. Or your comment deeply touches my heart. Or I've enjoyed your kind words. Thank you. Or I'm glad you enjoyed this. Or, we could say something like that just to acknowledge them. Maybe it's something really significant they said, and you might say, words fail to express what I feel right now. Your words have deeply touched my heart. Like we could just do something like that, right? Any other thoughts on how to receive it and hold it first?
I would probably gravitate towards like, I appreciate the kind words. I feel like that's simple.
Perfect. Yeah. You know what? That's better than, I think that was a really good one. I appreciate the kind words. Now, we want to pass it on. Here's the thing with passing it on. This is where all the skill is. We want to get good at praise hot potato. Let's say somebody says, what you did was outstanding. After we hold it for a minute, and just say like, I appreciate your kind words. then what might we add on to that in order to pass along the praise? Any thoughts?
You could say, like, I'm grateful for the opportunities that others have given me.
Beautiful. Yeah. So you could say, I appreciate the kind words. I'm grateful for the opportunities others have given me. Or you could say, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I couldn't have done it without you.
Right.
Depending on who says this. Or you could just say, I'm just so lucky to have these experiences and opportunities.
Right.
Like just in some way we could just reflect it back to gratitude, right? You could say my success is a reflection of the success of others who helped create this opportunity that I'm grateful to enjoy.
I've heard you say that one before.
Oh, you have?
I have.
I know, that's one of mine. And every time I say it, it reminds me of it.
It's true.
I'm like, yeah, you know what? That was good. It's almost like healing for us when we say these things.
It's like taking your dose of medicine too, right?
Absolutely. It's humility hygiene. You got to clean off the ego before it gets stinky, builds up. It's like having a shower. It's like, nope, this is due to the success of others. All right. Let's go into another example. Somebody says, you are so amazing. I wish I could be like you. How might you respond to that?
I appreciate the kind words as a go-to.
Yeah, sure. You can always say that. Perfect. You held a hot potato. How do you pass that?
Yeah, I think even just like the word like appreciate helps you stay like grounded, like in honoring what someone's saying about you. I wish I could be more like you. That's a tough one to respond to. I feel like.
Yeah. I think this one's a little bit tricky, and that's why I gave it second, because what you want to do is, I think the best thing to do is to reflect back the way they view you, to inspire and encourage them that they have the same inherent potential.
Right.
So I usually say, look, nothing special about me apart from you. I'm just reflecting a potential you have within you. Right? The same inherent capacity to do good is in you. What I have done, you could do, depending on what it is, obviously.
Right.
If you could, if you're speaking to somebody who's more spiritually inclined, you might say, look, nothing can be done without the grace of God. And, God is ever ready to shower his grace, God's grace upon those who are sincere, make a sincere effort. Right? Like, and it's available to all of us. Right?
I mean, would feeding like their pride back, like, for example, let's say this is like the most, I've heard this so many times in like a workroom, whenever it's like, oh, you're so kind, I wish I could be more like you. And then the other person responds, oh, but you're so kind and you're so beautiful, like I want to be like you. Like, it's kind of like the back and forth, you know what I mean? Like, it's always, I feel like what I hear.
Yeah, and I might say thanks, and I think, part of my success is just a reflection of having really extraordinary souls in my life, just like yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that.
So you might reflect it back in that way. It's good you brought that up. It's just reflect them as being a part of your success equation. Right?
Or even saying something like, I wouldn't be here without your contribution, right? Like,
yeah, or you inspire me to be my best.
No, that's a good one.
People like you inspire me to be my best. So that would be
okay.
Some different ways of coming at it. And then they might even really go over the top sometimes. They might say, look, what you did was miraculous. Okay. And they might really gush on you hard. And then in those moments, sometimes you're going to have to say, what's really miraculous is the amount of help I had and all the unseen forces that have supported me. Right? Or, you could say it's a testimony to divine grace that things went as well as they did. Or your praise belongs to God, who alone is the true doer. Like, if somebody really goes over the top on a compliment, then sometimes you really need to be careful on this because there's a great risk to absorbing that kind of a compliment, right? They're trying to give you a God complex, right? Not intentionally, like, but it's like, holy smokes, when somebody goes over the top with a compliment, it's like, we really have to be intentional on how we handle it. Any thoughts on that one?
No, I would just say like these aren't things that I've like considered before, like, and realize how like powerful lingo can be in like your attitude. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like words are powerful. That's why, like the first letters in the word spelling are spell, right? Because these words can literally put us under a spell, right? It becomes the fabric of our thoughts and intentions and energy. So it really helps to address it at this level. Now, and sometimes we might have somebody write something to praise us or flatter us in a way that we can't respond immediately. How should we respond within ourselves, you think, if somebody really shares some deep appreciation for us and we're not able to respond directly? What do you think we could tell ourselves?
I would say just like remind yourself of like, like the creator, like, and like the other beings that kind of brought you here, like internally, just like always maybe think back to like, I wouldn't be here without my parents or without like the creative force.
Yeah. For me, it's so you could say God is the doer. Done.
Yeah.
Four words if you want to, or you could just remind yourself, all good comes through me, not from me. Any success I have is attributed to those who came before me in grace. Like, just remind ourselves that it's almost like repeating a mantra. It's good. It's like, I'm glad I saw this so I can do my little mantra in my head here and feel better.
Right.
All right. So let's go on to some action steps for winning the battle against pride. There's 3 action steps here. 1, remember that pride goes before the fall. Even a little bit of pride is a bad idea. There's an opportunity cost, right? Because when you're being proud of yourself, what are you not doing?
Gratitude.
Exactly. And that's a concept that really catches a lot of people. Catch and correct yourself when indulging in pride. Treat it like a life-threatening emergency. Why? Because pride can ruin your life. Right? Look how many lives it's ruined, right? And it, so just remind yourself that it's not a good idea. Okay. Step 2 is to turn pride into gratitude. Reduce your doership to less than 1%. Ask yourself, who had to do a good job so I could do a good job? Right? So there's a really good saying. It came from Og Mandino. He wrote a book called A Better Way to Live. And he said, the next time you're posted to boast, place your fist in a pail of water. And when you remove it, the whole remaining will give you a correct measure of your importance.
0.
I read that book 19 years ago. I read that book. And just that visual has stuck with me because it's kind of like, oh man, I'm like, he nailed it. And he nailed it with the name Og Mandino. Like, that's an amazing name. How can you forget that? Anyway, just remember that, turn pride into gratitude, accept nothing is our own. Our talents, our successes, our achievements, just be grateful to be a channel for it all, a channel for a greater good that's expressing through us. There's even a biblical reference on this. It's John 14:10 that says, it is the Father within that doeth the works. Right? So this is not a new concept. Jesus talked about this, right? I don't think people understood him as well at the time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done what they did to him. But, in the immortal words of Jesus, like, this is really the accurate perspective. And then I think that number 3 is to deflect praise always. Practice praise, hot potato. When people praise you, don't absorb it or it'll burn you, right? Get into the habit of just receive it briefly and pass it on, Just remember that to be here, you benefited from the progress, work, and sacrifice of countless beings. You know, and any success you have is a reflection of them doing a good job. Without them, we'd all be a primitive beast living in harsh conditions. Life would be short and painful and unimpressive, you know, like. So in conclusion, you know, well, any final thoughts, key takeaways in conclusion?
I would just say like more awareness around like when maybe you are acting entitled or feeling entitled, and maybe even just like daily reminders of like gratitude of like all the people who contributed to where you are now or who you are now, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes we all need a spotter, and it's good to have other people become a part of this conversation and encourage your form on thoughts. It's like correcting somebody in the gym if they're not using good form. Sometimes we need somebody to correct our thought and attitude form. And so it could be good to like even share this conversation with somebody so that you can, or other people, so you can chat about it and deepen your understanding of the topic, and then deepen your commitment to living this way. And I would tell anybody, try it and see that this is a better way to live. Like, just try it out. Don't take my word for it. Like, actually start doing this and see how much better you feel and function when you're using gratitude as your motivational fuel instead of personal pride. You know,
Yeah.
too often we assume credit for wisdom and results that accrue from causes that are far beyond our everyday awareness. And the praise doesn't really belong to us. I mean, that's the thing. When, you know, when we're accepting praise, we're accepting it under the, you know, under the pretense that we've achieved some sort of isolated greatness. And we want to destroy that pride before it destroys us, before it turns us into a villain. And pride makes us super fragile. You know, nothing can hurt your pride if you have no pride. Pride can make us like emotional burn victims. The slightest thing and we get offended and standoffish. That's all pride and impression management. You know, if you can turn your pride into gratitude, practice praise, hot potato, you know, you can become a powerful hero to do your work in this world that only you can do and fulfill your life mission. There's going to be the temptation for the hero to turn into a villain, and that works through pride. Pride is the spell that turns heroes into villains, right? So we must remember what needs to be remembered. That's one of the most important things. Going forward into life, into your hero's journey, just remember, this is going to happen. People are going to convince you pride is a good idea. They're going to try to fill you up on villain fuel and beef up your pride. And what do we got to do? We got to remember these tools that can help us be our best. Right? Any other thoughts?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay. Well, I'm not the doer. I'm just grateful for everyone and everything that contributed to our conversation here today. Countless sources of wisdom that I've been able to access in order to consolidate it all and kind of put it into this little format for everyone here today. I'm less than 1% of it. Just grateful to have the opportunity, and hopefully, you know, out of our own sense of gratitude and sharing this conversation, hopefully it benefits somebody out there. We did this for you because we appreciate you and everything you do for society. So if you've made it all the way here to the end of this video, then we want you to join us. We're all in this together. Let's do a little go team fist bump on 3. Here we go. Let's do this. We're here to be a part of Team Gratitude, help each other out. 1, 2,
Gratitude.
3, go team.
Go team. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
See you.